Hello. Welcome back, you guys. Thank you so much for stopping by, spending a little bit of your time with me. I am super excited, super stoked for this video. I have 4 high-end Dollar Tree shelf DIYs to share with you guys using the new and sought-after wall shelf that is from Dollar Tree. And I thought it would be really fun to show you guys how you could spruce yours up 4 different ways. So let's just jump right into it. For the first shelf project, I'm going to be using one of the wall shelves, and then I'm going to be using 4 of these little mini arrangements that are from Dollar General. I have 2 purple ones and 2 white ones that I will be using. So I just started out by putting on the little mini arrangements just to kind of play around with the placement. I wanted to measure out where I needed to, where I was going to place each one of these. So once I had like a general idea of how far apart I wanted each of them to be, I just took my pencil and just traced the bottom of that first little arrangement. So I traced the bottom of that first one because I'm going to be cutting square holes into this shelf so that the little arrangements can fit directly into them. So here you can see that I'm starting to number each of the mini arrangements because when I first drew the square pattern around the first one, I didn't realize that it was kind of wonky at the bottom, so it wasn't perfectly square, but the rest of them are not identical. Like the bottoms are not identical to each other, so that's why I had to number each of them so I knew which hole was traced to fit which little mini arrangement since they were not identical at the bottom. Once I had the new trace marks done, I just took my drill and I used the largest drill bit that I had, and I just drilled a hole at each of the 4 corners, on the first little square that I was working on. And then I took this X-Acto knife saw type of thing. It has like a little mini saw blade at the end. I ordered it from Amazon, and I just started, following along the trace marks that I had traced according to the bottoms of the little mini arrangements, and I just kept cutting till I was cutting all the way through and that each one of the sides was done. Also, please keep in mind that this project is definitely a little bit more tedious, but I felt personally that it was totally worth it in the end because I just really loved the way it turns out. So there you can see, once you have all the cuts through, the middles will just pop right out. And it should fit perfectly in there if you did your measurements correctly. Here you can see that half the planter is above the shelf and the other half is below the shelf. So that's what we want for each of the other holes as well. And I did do the other 2 off camera for you guys, but it was the same exact process that I did go through for the one I just showed you. And I accidentally kind of snapped my little shelf, but that was an easy fix. I just used some wood glue and just, fixed it right up. Also, I used a little, like a fine grit sandpaper just to smooth out the squares, just to make sure everything was going to fit. 2 of my holes were nice and snug around the planters, but the other 2, they were just falling right through, so I made the holes a little bit too big, but that was an easy fix as well. I just used my hot glue to kind of reinforce it underneath the shelf right there. I did glue all 4 edges in the beginning, but after looking at it, when you held it up, from the front and the back, you could see the hot glue. So I kind of chiseled that away. So when you do yours, just keep the hot glue on the sides of the planters and then you should not see any of that hot glue. All right, well, here is how that one turned out. Oh my goodness. In love, you guys. I love it. I really just feel like having the planters come through the shelf just brings it to the next level. It's just different, and I really like that about some pieces. You can definitely place the little planters on top of the shelf by all means. I just like to take it to the next step, and I thought it was just a really fun idea to have the planters coming through that shelf. I just love the way it looks. Again, keep in mind this one is a little bit more tedious and time consuming, but to me the whole process is totally worth it. For the next shelf project, I'm going to be using 2 of the Dollar Tree shelves, and I'm just going to start by removing the little hangers that come on them. You can cut the strings if you want. I just untied these ones because I thought maybe I was going to use them for, future projects. After that, I took some lightweight spackling that's from Dollar Tree as well, and I just filled in each of those holes on both of the shelves. Once I gave the spackling enough time to dry, I just took some white Waverly chalk paint and I just gave each of those shelves like an all-over coat of paint. The only thing I did not paint was the bottom of the shelves, but I do recommend that if you're going to make this, that you should paint the bottom of the shelf, just so that when you attach them and you hang it on your wall, that you don't see the messy bottom paint job that wasn't completely finished. So once I had both of them painted, I just took my drill again, and I'm just going to be attaching these in like an L-shaped form. So I have one shelf that's going to be lying flat on its back, and the other one is just going to go right on top of it to give it that L shape. And then I'm just going to use my tape measure and a pencil to mark out where I'm going to be screwing in my screws, just to make sure everything lines up and that it's going to be evenly spaced out. So once I'm done making my marks, I'm just going to take a smaller drill bit just to drill some pilot holes. That way it's easier for the screws to go right in. I used a stack of books to kind of, give me some height so I could keep the shape of the shelf, the look that I was going for, without it falling down and just making it a lot harder for me. So like I said, once I had those marks, I just drilled some pilot holes, and then I just screwed my screws in, and then I just took a couple of basic nails and just nailed those on the top right there just to reinforce the stability of it a little bit. And there you can see that my screws were actually just a little bit too wide, so they ended up splitting that shelf in the back there. But that's okay, I just took some spackling from Dollar Tree and just filled it right in, let it dry, and once it was dry, I just painted over it. I did paint over the top of the screws and the nails just to kind of blend everything and make it look, incognito. For my next step, I just took these metal hooks that I found at the Target dollar spot. They were $3 for the pair. Originally, I would have loved to have 3 of the hooks on the shelf. I think it would have been so cute, but unfortunately, I was only able to find 1 of the packs of hooks, and they were just, wiped out at my store. So, I just made do with what I had. So I just kind of played around with the placement of where I wanted the hooks to go. I just decided 1 at each of the ends. So I made my marks, and I just used my little level to make sure everything was, going to be nice and leveled. And after I had my marks and where I knew where I wanted them to go, I just screwed those in with some screws that I already had on hand. They're just smaller screws, so that way you want to make sure that the screws don't come through the back of the shelf. Then I printed out this cute little saying, "Come home safe." And if you watched my video last week, you know that I got this saying, inspo from Shayna from Robinson Repurposing. She made a cute little sign that says "Come home safe," and I absolutely fell in love with the saying. I think it is so precious. It's adorable. So yeah, I just printed that out using my Cricut machine, and then I just applied it right into the middle between those hooks. And then my last little step to complete this shelf was to just add some sawtooth hangers, so that way the shelf was ready to be hung on the wall. And here is the finished look, you guys. Oh my goodness. I love, love, love this one. So cute. I really love the clean, modern farmhouse look. I've been digging that a lot more lately, I guess. There's just something about, the matte black against the white. I love it. And I think the saying in the middle just really brings everything together. So, so cute. On to the third shelf project. This one is so quick and easy, so simple, you guys, but it turns out so good. So I'm going to be using 1 of the wall shelves and then 2 of these metal hanging plant brackets. Oh my goodness. Sorry, that is kind of like a tongue twister. Anyways, all of those items are from Dollar Tree. So I just started by, lining up the plant brackets at the ends of the shelf and just kind of making sure everything was evenly spaced at the ends. And then I just used my drill and a couple of the screws again that I had on hand. And I'm just screwing those at the ends to cover up the holes that were already made in the shelf. So I just placed it, right over those. And then I just used the hole placements that were already on the bracket to know where I needed to make my marks and screw in my screws. So again, super, super quick, easy, simple little DIY project, but love the way it turns out. And then after each of those brackets were screwed on, my last little step was to add sawtooth hangers, and that was it for this project, you guys. How stinking cute! I love it. I think it is, totally classy, very high-end looking. It has more like maybe an industrial type of vibe going. I like the color of the natural wood against with the matte black brackets. Totally, totally cute. It's, still really clean and simple, but it's definitely very eye-catching in my opinion. For $3, you honestly can't go wrong. Also, I do want to point out you can totally like clamp those hooks down at the bottom, maybe rock that part back and forth so that way, you know, it comes off and you're just left with the triangle of the bracket, and I think that it would look totally awesome too. Alright, on to the fourth and final shelf project. I'm going to be using 2 of those garden fences, which I found at the 99-cent only store. They were $1.99 a piece, but I feel like it's totally worth it. And then I will be using 4 of the Dollar Tree shelves. I'm just going to start by removing all of the, the hangers that came on them. And I'm using this little like triangular tool to just show you where I'm going to be making my cuts on the garden fence. I'm just going to cut off the little end pieces that are hanging over, so that way you're just left with 2 long pieces of wood on the side, and then you have the little notches in the middle. I'm using my Dollar Tree saw, and it worked perfectly fine for me, so I don't think you guys should have a problem there. So I originally was going to use one of the garden fences to cut it like this and then just cut it directly in half, but I figured that would just be way too tedious, way too hard. So I did decide to use 2 of the garden fences, so that way it just makes everything a little bit more easier for myself, and then everything just matches up perfectly. Here you can see I have the 2 little like trellis sides made, and that way the little notches just match up perfectly, symmetrical with each other. After that, I decided to go in with some Caviar from Dixie Belle Paint. It's like a matte black color, which is really, really pretty. Again, lately, I don't know, I've been digging the matte black, and like a more clean, modern look. So I painted both of those little wooden pieces. And then I started working on the shelves. So I just took some wood filler and I filled in each of those holes on all 4 of the shelves. Once the wood filler had time to dry, I just took a fine grit sandpaper and just sanded it down so that way everything was, nice and smooth, and everything was nice and flush with each other. Next, I just took some Special Walnut wood stain, and I just stained each of those shelves. I really liked this color. It's not like a dark, dark walnut, so it's not too dark, but then it's also not too light. I just thought, between the matte black and then like this stain color, they would really complement each other really, really well. So once I had each of those pieces stained, it was just time to assemble this little mini shelf that I'm going to be making. So I'm going to be placing each of the shelves on top of one of the notches that are, on the inside of those side pieces. Sorry, I know that's a lot. I hope that makes sense. You can see that I'm placing it on top of the bottom notch, and then I'm just going to be adding my nails on the outside of each of the pieces. So that way it's going to go through the outside of that garden fence and then through to the shelf. So that way it keeps everything nice and secure and nice and in place. And I'm adding the shelves on top of the notches just to add to that extra support and like stability that each of those shelves kind of need, so it doesn't, fall apart or anything like that. It just makes everything nice and secure. So I placed the first shelf on the bottom notch, the first like notch that you see. Then I skipped a notch, and then I added the shelf to the 3rd notch. Then I'm going to skip a notch and then add it to the next notch. So you can see that there's like, it's evenly spaced in between each of the shelves. So then I just added the nails on the outer, sides of each of the pieces. Again, just like I did the first shelf. And once I got to the top shelf, I was kind of like, where do I place it? Do I want to place it directly on top of the garden fence, or do I want to do it underneath that notch? So I decided to do underneath the notch, and just added my nails like I did the rest of the shelves. And then I'm going to just take these excess pieces that I have from the garden fence that I cut earlier, and I'm just going to measure those out to go directly under that top shelf, just to make a new notch. Sorry, I know. I'm trying to explain it the best I can. So I just, cut those pieces, painted them with the Caviar color again. And here you can see I'm going to use some wood glue, and then they're just going to go directly under that shelf right there. So that way it just adds to the support and stability of that first shelf, because it has nothing. If I didn't do this, it would have nothing below it. So that way it would probably fall off, if you put anything significantly heavy on there. You just obviously don't want that to happen. All right, and my last little step was to just add these like picture frame hangers on the back right there at the top of the little shelf. So that way I just have the ability to choose like if I want to have this as a standing piece or I can hang it on the wall. So yeah, I just took my drill and just screwed those little pieces into place, and this was how it turned out, you guys. Oh man, oh man, I love, love, love this piece. Like I can't, in love is an understatement. I think it turned out so good and just so sleek and high-end looking. I really like the matte black on the sides, and then with that like stained or the special walnut color on the shelves. I love it. I think it's so cute, and like I said, I really like that I'm able to, decide if I want to have it as a standing piece or if, I want to hang it up on my wall and stage it and decorate it that way. So you guys will definitely have to let me know what you guys think of this piece. I think for me, this is my favorite for sure, but you guys will have to let me know which one is your favorite. Yay! It is final walkthrough time. I always love this part of the videos. I just love seeing everything together, even though obviously that's not where each of those pieces are going to stay. It's just really fun to see everything that I created like all in one spot. So planter, absolutely adorable. I really love the like neutral, natural look of it, It's great for everyday decor as well. I really feel like all of these pieces are just so great for year-round decor. You know what I mean? And just decorate them throughout the seasons and whatnot. I also really love how individual and just unique these pieces are. They're just so stunning in their own way. I'm so proud of how these projects turned out, and I just love the uniqueness and the variety between them all. I definitely cannot wait to hear which one you guys love the most. Do you love them all? Which one are you going to make? That shelf though, look at how stunning it is, kind of all decorated a little bit. Oh my goodness. Favorite, favorite, favorite for sure. So I can't wait to hear what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.